Hello, everybody. Welcome to Better Together. It is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. When you know better, you get better. And that's what we're trying to do here every single day. I think we're succeeding. Don't you think, people?
I'd say so.
I'm getting better every day. Are you?
100%. I think there's never been a more important time for us to be getting better. So I'm very grateful for this show. And talk about an amazing slate of guests we've had the last couple of weeks.
I know. Well, thank you guys for joining us here every day. Of course, we are doing everything we can to address the current times in our country and the need for us to speak up and help find understanding and learn and grow. Our quote of the day: strength grows in the moments when you think you can't go on, but you keep going anyway. And that is from our guest, Ed Mylett, who I'm very excited to have on the show today. He's an entrepreneur, an author, an international speaker, a very successful dude. And he's going to teach us a lot today that is going to help us on our journeys. In the meantime, we are also joined by, hopefully none of the other AfterBuzzers are listening, but quite possibly my favorite AfterBuzzer of all time. Mr. James Law Jr. is here. Hi, James. He's like, yeah, I know.
I love it, Maria. I love it. Hello, my dear. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Of course, you will always be known as an AfterBuzz TV host, but you're also highly sought after as the super organizer. And of course, every day this week, I've been featuring one of our incredible AfterBuzz hosts to kind of help us, talk through the times and get to hear your voices and hear your perspectives on things and what we can be doing to be better. And so I thank you, first of all, for taking the time to be here.
It's for you, Maria. It's for you, of course. Of course I will. Of course. Not even a thought. I knew I was going to. If you asked me to come, I will show up.
I love you. You're the best. Well, I think you're also going to have some excitement around listening to Ed, because he's obviously a life coach that people, are very excited to be listening to. He's an entrepreneur, and as you're building out your super organizer brand, I think you'll glean some really good advice from him too.
Yeah, I've been following some of his stuff, and so because I'm also a certified life coach myself, so I like listening to other life coaches and seeing what they have to offer.
Shit, Renaissance man! I didn't know you were a life coach. Now you don't call someone and tell them.
6 years.
You've been a life coach for 6 years?
Yes. Yeah.
Hello.
I do everything, Maria. I do everything.
Damn.
I do everything.
All right.
I want to give a shout out to Coach Training Alliance, my teacher, Lori Cameron, one of the best teachers. I'm certified in 4 areas. So.
What are the 4 areas?
General life coaching, professional organizing life coaching, media organization, and home organization.
No way.
Yeah,
okay, so how many hours of training go into each division?
So for the main one, it was a year. It was a year-long process. It was 2-hour classes, plus you're set up with a buddy. You had a buddy system. So
is it daily, weekly 2-hour classes?
Weekly.
Okay.
And so once a week, we'd meet up on a teleconference, and they gave us this giant book and all this stuff, and we had homework to do, and I loved it. It was so transformative. It took me a year. Took a test, and I passed it, and I got my certification. And the other ones were a little quicker. One was 3 months. One was 1 weekend, and they were different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
General life coaching, it was a year-long program. I
Wow.
loved it. It was worth the money. It was worth everything.
Who are some of your favorite life coaches? Like, were you familiar with Ed Mylett before this?
I heard of him and a few others. I didn't know what a life coach was at first. I didn't know exactly. I heard that term, and I'm like, do they talk to astrology? Do they tell people how to walk? I had no idea what they did until I went into the system and I saw, oh, it's much more than that. So I didn't have any favorites at times. I didn't know I really know what it was, but I was told what I was doing as an organizer. Literally, I'm coaching people also. I'm not just putting their socks away. I'm actually talking how to put those socks away and what that means.
So, what is your greatest home organization tip?
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay, here's what I always say to everybody. And here's a shameless plug number one. My book is out, Sort Out Sundays. My motto is small steps lead to large rewards.
I like that.
So my greatest tip is start small. Go behind a door. Take one drawer,
Mm-hmm.
one corner of a desk. Start there. Do not kill yourself.
Yeah.
If you did organizing, let's say an hour a day, you'll be amazed after a week where you're at.
I like that. During the coronavirus quarantine, which we're still under, but
Yeah, right.
I would do just that. I would take on a closet. I would take on the kitchen drawers. I would take on the kitchen cabinets at different weekend junctures. I would just go full on. And it didn't feel like it was as daunting as if like you took on everything all at once. So you just, you baby step it and you feel good about that. And then it inspires you to go do the next thing. And so.
My thing is, we're all at home right now. So now we're actually seeing
Mm-hmm.
what doesn't work. A lot of times you're like, you go to bed at midnight, you wake up at 6, you go to work till 6, you get home, you're not home in your stuff. I'm getting so many calls from my clients going, I can't find the scissors. I don't know where the scissors are. Or this kitchen doesn't work for me the way it's set up. I never really cook it. I always go out to eat every night, but now I'm cooking at home. I can't find the whisk,
Mm-hmm.
and the cabinet's this way, and that doesn't make any sense. The food's way over there, and the spices are way over there. Like they're seeing now why systems work. Why I
Yeah.
always advocate for like putting systems in place in your home.
Wait, so I'm obsessed with Pinterest, of course, but TikTok now has a lot of really quick tips.
That's
And
what I do.
so are you doing those on TikTok?
I have a series called "How to Get Super Organized in Under a Minute."
Okay, I'm so in. I'm gonna follow, and I don't even know if I follow. I've only followed a couple of people on there because I'm not on there very much. But I saw something, and it was how to make your smoothies easier every day. So I have 1,000 bags that I have to pull out and put them on the counter and the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if you put them in a cabinet drawer, your kitchen cabinet drawer with the little containers, and you pour the powders in, then you're just scooping out of that. And I was like, it was literally like, the clouds parted, the birds started chirping. I'm like, I'm going to go to the Container Store at some point and I'm going to buy all of the, units, and I'm going to make this happen. And my spirulina will be in there, my protein powder. I'm just going to pull the drawer open, scoop it out, and my life's going to be so much easier.
Mm-hmm. It's just things like that. And TikTok has been amazing because I chose myself. Now, I'm not, I'll do the dance videos, I'll do the crazy stuff. I said, I'm going to bend TikTok to James Lott Jr.'s will.
Yes.
And so I have like several series, but that How to Get Super Organized Under a Minute it's been so successful for me that it's actually spilling into my other lives, which is great. And I'm showing my industry, organizing industry, I'm like, take advantage of whatever platform is out there. People want knowledge.
Yeah.
And if it's under a minute, they'll learn, you can learn something.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we shifted into organizing because, of course, my first book was all about that.
Yes, it was.
But I want to know where you're at today, June 10th, with the Black Lives Matter movement. Have you been out on the streets? What is your kind of take on everything at this point and where we're going with everything?
Good question. So today I'm doing okay. Every day it's something different. I had a meltdown maybe like a week ago. I was triggered by my own experiences with police. I didn't realize why I was upset. I'm 51 years old. I'm a little older than a lot of people here.
I
I've been
forget
black
that
a
all the
long
time.
time.
Did you say I've been black a long time?
A long time. I've been black 51 years. And so I'm like, a lot of this stuff isn't news to me.
Yeah.
But for some reason, seeing those couple of videos, George Floyd and the guy in Central Park, which I've been to Central Park a million times myself, it triggered me. And I really got depressed and I was crying for like 2 days.
Yeah.
So I had to shut down, not watch TV, not talk on the phone to pull myself together. And so every day since then, it's been up and down here and there. But for me, I'm so encouraged by the younger generation. I protested back 20, 30 years ago for several different things. I have a compromised immune system from the Bell's palsy, so I'm not out there. I'm at home. I've not left my house in 87 days, so I haven't left. But I'm supporting our young AfterBuzz hosts that are going out there, Black Hollywood Live hosts that are going out there, my young cousins who are going out there. My granddaughter went and protested in Sacramento. I was very proud of her. So I'm supporting them. I feel like the village mentality applies where we each have our part. And so my part is the elder statesman who supports and supports and supports. And the other thing I've been doing is I've been in demand. I've been on several different Facebook Lives for several different associations in the organizing world, life coaching world, everything, talking about race in business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been my contribution. This week I decided to showcase Black talent that I know, showcase their work, showcase what they're doing, which I do anyway all the time. But I thought now's the time to do that especially. Here's my friend has a great song out. Here's my friend has a great book out. Here's a great professional organizer who is Black and does a great job. So I've been kind of on that front lines doing that, kind of from my home. But I feel like it's just as important. And again, I support the folks that are out there doing it. I just can't. But I did 20, 30 years ago. I was out there protesting, and, you know, I had jobs I couldn't get advanced to because I was Black, and that was just in the 90s. You know, I was born during civil rights movement, late 60s. And I remember I was a kid in busing and desegregation in the 70s.
Wow.
And that didn't work. And then in the 80s, there were certain jobs I couldn't even get because I was Black.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get through the door. So I've seen this whole thing go. So I have a different perspective than a lot of people because I'm a little older. I'm just like tired. I'm so tired. I'm like, am I still talking about this 40, 30, 20 years later?
Yeah. So
that's the part of this.
So having a different perspective, do you feel hopeful, or do you think that everyone's going to just be rallying for a moment and it's all going to go back to the way it used to be? What do you think is going to happen?
That's a great question, actually. Some days I feel hopeful, and some days I go, well, it all died down at some point and we'll be back to where it was. And so I go back and forth. That's my only honest question I can give. I go back and forth. There's some days I'm seeing some change happen and I go, good, okay, finally.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of waiting to see how it plays out. Because I mean, it could totally be, now we're in a whole different state. I'm just not sure. I've seen this before where, I mean, I was here for Rodney King. I was here for all these other things that, you know, my house literally was here when the riots happened, where I live right now. Our stores burned down across the street, and our house almost burned down. So I was here for all that rage and anger, and a lot of things didn't happen. So I'm some days I'm hopeful, some days I'm like, oh, well, we'll see what happens.
But I do think that this generation is really banding together, and I think this is the moment. I know I'm very I'm very optimistic, and you know, it's hard for someone like you. That's why I asked you the question, because you've gone through it in so many different incarnations that I'm curious. But I really hope that you know, when you see the signs where it's like you fucked with the wrong generation, I'm like, please, we've had so many gripes with your generation.
Yes.
Please do something to make us proud. I know that's horrible. I know.
It's fair, though. As a member of that generation, it's fair. I get it.
I mean, I used to be so bad about like pooping on your generation. And then I realized, I was like, okay, well, listen, there's good with the bad. And I was just starting to, you know, you start to repeat other people's beliefs, because that just becomes the collective, you know, conversation. Like, oh, the millennials, oh, the friggin' millennials. And then you're like, wait, actually, oh, but they're really good at this. And this is really cool that they're bringing in work-life balance. And, you know, like there's stuff that, you know, that you just don't even realize you're going down that path. And so. Yeah,
I'm with you, Maria. I trust me. I have grown daughters here in that generation. I've yelled at them. So my thing is, I'm glad the young are taking the baton. My only thing is, I ask of young people, do not shit on us older folks. I'm seeing a rise of that happening.
Really?
But, oh yeah, they're kind of this like, well, you didn't do enough, and this is why we're here, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, the fact that I showed up to work and I was the only Black person in the company, that was enough at the time.
Wow.
Only the time that I got fired for a job because I couldn't get the management position after 5 years, and I stood up for myself. And said that's not right. That was what I did. Now the next person who went in got the job in their management. So it's kind of like I had to prove, just me showing up in the room a lot of times. I had to show people, oh, he's a good Black person. Okay, he's okay. I mean, it's literally like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm telling people we did a lot that we could do at that time. It was a different time period, I'm seeing a rise of, the Gen X people on the beam, they didn't do enough. And this, but it's like, no, that's what each generation thinks anyway. But it's kind of like, well, now you take it because you got opportunities that we didn't have. Take it and run with it. So I'm an optimistic person like you are, Maria, most of the time. So I'm trying to be hopeful that they're going to do this because this is the world they need to create for themselves.
Yeah.
This is their world.
It's funny. You said something earlier about amplifying, Black voices and Black business people and all of that. And it hit me. I know this is so stupid, but it hit me in that moment. I'm like, oh yeah, me and Kevin have been kind of doing that for 10 years. With AfterBuzz and BHL and all of this. Like, one of the things that, as I talk to people about AfterBuzz and Popcorn Talk and BHL and all of the networks combined, is that the thing I'm most proud of is our diversity. And I don't mean Black and white. I mean age, race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation. And that's always been my proudest thing, is that when you come to AfterBuzz, you're going to see everything there, and everything is celebrated and everything is loved and nurtured. And it just hit me in this moment with you that I'm because I'm seeing so many people being called on by people. Like yesterday, I started seeing people like, okay, tomorrow my Instagram is going to be taken over by a Black voice and whatever. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who's calling all those people. I wonder why they didn't call me. Right. But then I'm like, wait, I'm doing it every day and have been for 10 years and have funded multi-millions of dollars of my own money to give this opportunity. And I'm like, I guess I should maybe give myself a little bit more credit, because I don't even think about it.
Well, Maria, you come from immigrants, you have your own kind of perspective on that too, so that I think that does help understand when you come from other countries and other peoples of color. They kind of have an understanding kind of what what this movement's about. I want to say a word for you to remember also, because you don't do this. It's called racial gaslighting. It's by New Crusade. That's when you tell a person, basically you're telling them to hush up, to not speak about their experience, to not let them be who they are. They can say things like, well, James, you sure it was racism? I don't know. I think maybe you're seeing it the wrong way, or maybe you're seeing it and you should see it the other way. I was discriminated against at an organizing job, actually. The boyfriend of my client said some nasty words about me and didn't want me touching his stuff. And everybody kept saying, I feel bad for her. You should understand what she's going through. I was discriminated against and called derogatory names to my face. So that's racial gaslighting. It's like we're crazy. They do it to women. He called you honey and doll, but he's your boss. He just was really friendly with you. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's inappropriate? Just he likes you. So he said you have nice boobs. Well, why are you upset about that? Because you're at work? You have nice boobs in that dress. It's that kind of thing of shutting you down. Mm-hmm. Can't be heard, that what you're thinking is completely like gaslighting, completely wrong. And so for Black people, we're tired of being told to shh.
Yeah.
Shh, don't say that. And you guys don't do that. That's kind of my point. I'm trying to get that word out to the people. Racial gaslighting that's what we're tired of.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like that gaslighting is kind of across the board, right? Like when you think of the Me Too movement, when you think of workplace toxicity, like I can't say anything about what I've gone through in the workplace. Are you kidding me? I'd never work again. I have to just keep my mouth shut. And so, keeping your mouth shut is maybe good for you as an individual, but not for the collective. And that's the thing that I've been struggling with. And, I don't think this is its moment, but at some point it's funny. There was a moment where I was like, gosh, it's kind of the next movement. But now there's a bigger movement that has to happen. And then that movement will happen too. Like it's, I think as a human race, like we have to continue to evolve and grow and get better. That's just growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. So,
Maria, this is what we're seeing is we're all connected. I always try to tell that in my practice, my coaching practice, that everything is connected. What I do affects you, what you affects me, whether we know each other or not, it does. And what we're seeing is with the Me Too movement, the trans movement, the queer movement, the Black, and even with the Latino movement, everything's going on, we can't go the way we are going.
Yeah.
that's literally, it's not working, right? It's not working.
Well,
So we're seeing,
oh, sorry, go ahead. I have something to
I
tell
think
you.
it's not working.
Yeah.
So at some point, it had to come to a head.
Yeah. So here's the last thing I'll say before we get to our guest. I had a therapist a few years ago who said, nothing that isn't built out of integrity will last. And so when you think about the roots of all of these issues, I mean, gosh, did they lack integrity?
Well, you know, I have a doctorate in divinity also, so I kind of have a Christian slant. I know I do everything,
Of
girl. I do everything.
Of course, James, of course.
I always say that God should be in everything, so that's kind of a feel to me. If you don't have God in it, then obviously it will not work. So that's one of my tenets.
I love it. Well, let's shift our conversation to our guest as he has a heart out today. So as I said, Ed Mylett, and we're going to continue to have these conversations every single day. We have an amazing guest tomorrow. I'll tell you guys about later too. Anyhow, Ed Mylett is an entrepreneur, author, international speaker, business coach, and host who is the fastest growing personality in the history of social media. Ed focuses on concrete steps that aspirational people can implement to achieve their goals. He works with CEOs and athletes and businesses to recognize the better person inside themselves. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Mr. Ed Mylett, how are you?
I'm good, Maria. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
I've been waiting too.
Thanks for being here. A mutual friend, KP, Kristen Prouty, has been like, you need to know Ed. And I'm like, I would love to know Ed.
I've been hearing the same thing. Your name comes up about every time I talk to her. She loves you. So finally, we connect. Hopefully it's not the last time.
I love it. I love it. Where in the world are you today?
I'm in 108 degrees of La Quinta, California.
Oh,
yeah,
very cool.
I'm in my desert house today. So,
well, may I introduce you to my co-host today, James Lott Jr.
Hello, Ed. How are you?
Pleasure to meet you, James.
Same here. You are amazing. You are amazing. And I just want to say, I want to ask you actually one question, if I can, really quick.
You can ask him all kinds of questions. You're a co-host, James.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question because I do many things myself. You do so many different things. When you're at like at a dinner party or at a group, what do you do for a living?
What do you lead with? I like that.
Yeah, what do you say? Like, what do you say to people? Does it change per group you're in? Do you shift it? It's the same. So I'm curious.
You hit on the thing I'm the worst at in the world because I'm always interested in what they do. And I really don't know what to say. My wife's like, that was a terrible answer. What you just said there is exactly what you don't do. But typically, I think I probably more often than not introduce myself as an entrepreneur, and a life strategist, I guess. It's so cheesy because my life's not perfect, So for me to be giving strategy on life to everybody sometimes feels a little bit imposter syndrome-ish to me. But I'll bet most of the time I'm introduced as an entrepreneur, as a business person, probably first. But that's a really good question. I answer that terribly. I'm like, well,
I love that though, because I feel less bad about the fact that, well, I have another issue, I feel like. And so, I do a lot of different things as well. And so I just, I really am more interested in them. And also I just kind of am like, there's too many things to say. I'm like, I do a little bit of everything, I'm a TV host, I'm this. And then I just kind of like, my husband gets so mad at me, probably like your wife. He's like, you need to own what you are. And I'm like, but I don't know where to, what do I start with? Oh, hi, here's my resume. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I'm an Emmy winner. Like when people even want to introduce me at events, I'm embarrassed.
I was just going to say, Maria, I'm the same way. They're like, so how should I introduce you? I'm like, just very quickly say my name and let me walk out there.
So that's not bad that we're like this.
I'm the same way too. So I'm like,
I think that says something. I think there's a space in the world for more humility. And, frankly, I'll take myself that seriously. But it is something I got to tell you. My wife, it frustrates her so badly how terribly I answer that question. But I do a bunch of stuff just like you guys do. So.
Okay, so then piggybacking off of that, I remember a conversation that a friend of mine had with Katie Couric, and she mentioned me. And she's like, she does too many things. Like, she should just focus on one thing. And then she thought about it and she's like, actually, you know what? No, she's good. She's good. Like, I take it back. And so I've always thought about it since then. And I do I remember your conversation with it was either a conversation with Gary Vee, or it was one of your solo videos where you talked about multitasking. Oh no, it was Jim Quick. It was Jim Quick,
Well,
who
he was on yesterday, right?
yeah, who I adore.
I love
and he
him.
was talking about the myth of multitasking, and you can't do two things cognitively at the same time. And so I wonder what your stance is on doing so many different things. Does it water down the thing you're strongest at, or how do you avoid that?
Yeah, there's this adage too, you hear that most millionaires have these multiple streams of income. That's like kind of a vogue thing to tell entrepreneurs too. I do think there's an element of that. I think you have to get great at something, and before you can be great at a lot of different things. And if you really track the success of most people, they picked something, got great at it, and then they began to diversify once they've sort of, I don't know if they've mastered it, but Tony Robbins, who I know you're friends with, he and I talk about that an awful lot too. Both of us started to diversify our lives later on. In the beginning, in Tony's case, it was being a personal development expert and an intervention expert. It was only later that he became sort of a serial entrepreneur and a one-on-one coach and these other things. So I don't think there's anything wrong with doing lots of things, but I do think there's a diversion of energy. And to get great at something, where focus goes, energy flows.
Yep.
And so if you're focused in 15 different places, you've depleted your energy sources and you're less effective just by energy space. So I think if they're correlated and related, that's good. But the people that I know that have got great at anything have become obsessed about that thing, have a healthy obsession for it. One of the things that I hope doesn't happen in our country right now is that we get off what we're focused on right now. That, okay, we've been on this now for a week, and then focus starts to get diverted in all these other places, and real change doesn't take place because we get caught up in 19 other different topics.
Yeah.
Let's resolve this. Let's fix this. Let's take some real action on this before we divert our focus. So if that's true there, that's probably true in most of our lives.
Yeah, I actually was searching yesterday, like Los Angeles protests, because I'm like, please tell me there are protests still going on. Like, where is everybody? And I didn't see anything. And then you go to Instagram and you start to see that some people are, starting to put back bikini pictures and like, here's my outfit and here's my hair and makeup. And you're like, okay, so the second that becomes normal for a few, it becomes normal for the many. And then we're back to where we were, which is only going to set us back in the future because it's just, it can't be left unresolved.
And the longer you start it, the more times you start an engine and turn it off, the harder it is to turn it on again. That's true in our lives and getting in shape.
Yeah.
There's only so many times we can get in and out of shape, and it's harder the 40th time, right? And so in our country right now, this conversation has to continue, but really we have to step past that. I'm not being political here, but like, what are the definable changes that we can look back on this time in 6 months when the bikini pics are back and say, well, bikini pics are back and they won't be back forever, but these 5 things changed. Yeah. This legislation was passed, the fundamental differences were made during that time. Then of course, we are going to get back to some normalcy in life, but then hopefully there'll be leaders from all walks of life and all communities that keep this in people's consciousness on a regular basis. And so, yeah, I definitely, to answer your question in the beginning, I do think you can divert your focus and be ineffective for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's people who really need to focus on one thing and again, I feel like I have this big village mentality. We're all part of the same village. So there are folks who should be focusing on this one thing to keep us all on course. I feel like that's kind of what needs to have happen, is that the folks that do have the one focus, keep going. Let's keep doing it. Keep us all in the loop. Let's kind of keep us in there and keep the conversation going, and the change is happening. I
agree.
So you mentioned your friendship with Tony. How long have you guys been friends for?
We're both old now. 25 years.
Stop it. That long?
I don't even like saying that out loud. Yeah.
Okay, so
I talked to him the other day, and his beard is completely white right now, and I'm like, bro, it's been too long. Yeah, we've known each other a long time. He's, and I know that Tony as well. He's been a big influence on my life. In fact, he was really the person that encouraged me after all of these years to sort of become a more public person. I enjoyed my privacy, and he knew that I did that, but he really challenged me. I won't use the words that he used, but like basically tell me I was full of if I wasn't willing to put myself out there. And so really my first Instagram post, in a public forum was because Tony was literally right there going, do it. I made a little stupid selfie video. And,
Wow.
I'll tell you a funny story because I want to give everybody hope that wants to grow something. This is no exaggeration. I knew nothing about Instagram, nothing about social media. And Tony's not even really that big on there, relatively speaking, how big he could be. And he told me, this is no joke, I swear to you. My son set the account up. I made the video. I'm like, here, post it. I got like 5 likes. And I was one of those normal social media people. I called him the next morning and I go, hey, whatever you told me to do doesn't work, bro. Because we're neighbors where we lived up in Idaho. And he goes, well, you posted at the wrong time of day. You should post in the morning around breakfast time. And what I hear him say, I swear to God, I hear him say, you got to post at breakfast time. And where were your hash browns? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, tell your son. So I call my son. I go, I thought you were an expert on this stuff. You got to post at breakfast time and you got to have hash browns in the video. My son's like, Dad, Uncle Tony told you hash browns in the videos? I'm like,
God.
I just hung up with him. If you don't know what you're doing, I'll hire a social media team. I'm kind of getting on my 16-year-old. And sure enough, I call Tony back. The next day, my second ever Instagram video is me with eggs and hash browns making my video.
Stop it. Stop it.
And Tony calls me the next day, goes, you idiot, it's hashtags. And I want you to post in the morning time. I'm like, what the hell's that hashtag? And that's a true story. And then, 3 years later and millions of people later, I figured out the hashtag.
So that's hilarious. And I wonder, it's so interesting to me because you guys there's a lot of crossover, right? And it's interesting to me that he would not be competitive. And I know Tony well. I'm just saying for the outside purview of people, right? Like, sometimes I'm even afraid to ask for advice from people who are similar because I'm like, well, why would they want to see me succeed? Yeah. And potentially be competition for them, because I've been in so many scenarios where I've innocently entered and thought, oh, we're going to be a team. This is awesome. We could do this and we could do that. And then they've seen me as a threat and then had to squash me like a bug. And so my experience has been always that people view you as competition. And so I'm kind of like always trying to figure it out on my own, which I know is a recipe for failure. It's not a smart recipe. You need to reach out to people.
But I know enough about you from our mutual friends to know that that's not the way you operate. You have an abundance mentality. And you help all kinds of different people that have been in your space and not in your space. And
I help everybody, but I'm generally afraid to ask. So it was funny before this, I said, I'm probably going to ask Ed for some help because he's really good at this. And I kind of need somebody to help me unlock a few things. And my New Year's resolution this year was to be bold and ask for help.
Good. So. Well, I'm glad to do it. And in Tony's case, I think, like most great people, I think he's mission oriented. I am. I know you are. I'm cause oriented. So if there's somebody I can enroll that can reach people, maybe I can. Our styles he's a foot taller than me. Our approaches, there's some crossover and some similarity. And because I've learned from him, hopefully a 1% I've helped him as well. But our approaches are a little bit different, but they're similar enough. And I think he knows my heart. Yeah. And I also didn't get into the space to make money. I had made I got into the space for the cause. I most of my stuff is free. There's nothing wrong with charging for your content, by the way. You should if you choose to. But I just don't think he has a scarcity mentality. And also, he's the OG. I don't meet anybody on my show. Almost nobody that's ever done my show that doesn't tell me in some way, shape, or form at some point Tony's work helped them. Yeah. And so we're all sort of descendants of his tree.
For sure. For sure. And then I wonder, as I, teach some of the lessons that have been pivotal in my life that I've learned at seminars or from Tony as a friend, I'm always like, well, Tony taught me this, because I never want to be like, oh, this is my teaching. So I'm like, motion equals emotion and focus equals feeling. And, that's what I learned with Tony. Do you feel like you always have to preface things, or do you just kind of do it?
No, I do. And I try my best to acknowledge, I'm probably a combination. I don't know how many original thoughts I have. I probably heard or thought most of the different things. You've had Joe Dispenza on before. Mm-hmm. Joe's one of my dear friends. When we're together alone, we riff back and forth of the different ways we approach the mind, spirit connection, those things. I'm sure I periodically repeat some of the things Joe has said and vice versa. But in most cases, if I know for sure I've heard it somewhere else, I try to give credit to that person. And if you don't, by the way, there's that social media crew that will let you know they heard it somewhere else too. So you're smart to do it and get in front of it if you can.
Well,
But isn't life? I would say, isn't life that way anyway? We're an amalgamation of everything that we learn
yeah,
and who we hear from and who we. I mean, we all of these things. We have original thoughts, obviously. We have things that we believe in that come from us, but they're all results of the things that we learn along the way.
true.
100%. And that's why I always try to give credit. And also, I think knowing what you just said is so important, James, because I don't want someone to think that some measure of success any of the three of us or anybody has had, that we're somehow unique or different than them. You know, the power of a lot of weight loss ads you see are the before and after. And oftentimes in social media or personal development, you're always seeing the after product where we appear to have the answers, we appear to be polished. But in my own case, I have to say, the reason I may know a little bit more about how to change your mind or your existence on earth to some extent is because I started from such a low baseline, such low self-esteem, so introverted, so quiet. I had to learn basic skills of personal development, self-help to just be a baseline functioning person that, you know, then it sort of got something I became obsessed with and addicted to that grew my life. But I don't want people to think that any of us are any different than they are.
I agree.
I love that.
Agree with that.
So, one of the conversations that I really wanted to have with you today, and for the benefit of our audience who may not have seen some of your videos where you talk about this, is the power of knowing your identity. I've never heard anyone else talk about this, and I found it really powerful, and I wanted to share that with everybody today.
Well, I talk a lot of different ways about identity, but one of the things that I really believe is that that's the governor on your life, on your happiness, on your peace, wealth, abundance, relationships, is this identity you have. And your identity is really the thoughts, concepts, and beliefs that you hold to be most true about you. And I opened up today talking about temperature. It's 109 degrees outside. Luckily for me, there's a thermostat right over there that is set at 74 degrees right now. And so that thermostat regulates the temperature of this room. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. It regulates the temperature. And so it's not outside conditions that dictate the quality of our life. It's 109 degrees outside. In your life, if you're a 75 degree, or let's just say of happiness, and life starts to heat up, you've all had this happen. You're happier, you've got better relationships, things are going well in business. What happens is if you start getting 90, 95 degrees of happiness and bliss, but you're a 75 degree or inside identity-wise, you find a way to turn the air condition of your life back down again to get yourself back to that 74, 75 degrees again. That happens in money. You know, you business is going well, but you're a 75 degree or in your thermostat setting, you got 90 degrees worth of happiness or finances, you cool it back down. The reverse is also true. If it gets really, really cold, you find a way to heat it back, life back up about to where you deserve it. This identity is really powerful because I look at everything, Maria, through identity. I look at our country, and our country needs an identity shift right now. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to have some short-term changes, and we'll find a way to turn the air conditioner back on and get us right back where we've always been again. One of the things that's most encouraging for me is to see the wide variety of people that are at these protests, that are locking arms, that are making posts. That tells me maybe as a country, we're having an identity change. An identity change for an individual or a group is a real change. And so I'm constantly working on changing my thermostat setting, getting it higher and higher and higher. That changes the external results of your life. And so for me, that's usually through association. That's usually the people that I'm around most regularly. Tony likes to say, I'll give him credit, Tony likes to say that one of the most powerful forces in the world is the expectations of your peer group.
Yep.
My way of saying that is they change your thermostat setting. If you're a person of faith and you hang around incredibly faithful people on a regular basis in that area, you're like, you can't help but live a more faith-based existence. If you're around super happy people all the time, they can't help but alter your thermostat setting to some extent. And so for me, the key in life is our thermostat setting in every area. And you have multiple ones, physically, emotionally, in your relationships. We've all have friends that we find them in 1 month and they're in love with this new relationship, but they're at 90, 100 degrees in that relationship. And 6 months later, we see them at a restaurant alone again, and it didn't work out, or he did this, or they did that. And there's this pattern they fall into because the relationship identity is at 75 degrees. They find a way to cool that part of their life back down. And it seems coincidental. It seems like it's, just, a set of circumstances we can't control, but it happens over and over again because of our identity.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Seriously, because there's no coincidence. I'm sorry, I don't believe in coincidence. There's no coincidence. Everything is connected, and there are things that seemingly are out of your control, but they really are in control.
That's correct.
Yeah, like who you're spending your time with. If you want to be fit, you have to really look at who you're hanging around. My husband likes to eat pizza around the clock. And if there's a cake, like Jeff, you brought me a strawberry shortcake for my birthday the other day, and he took at least a quarter of the cake down in one sitting and then was literally like this watching TV, snoring. And he's like, I'm so sorry, honey. I know it's your birthday. I don't know why I'm so tired. I go, because you just had an OD of sugar. And so
I met your husband, by the way, and he doesn't look like he eats a lot of cake. So that's pretty surprising to me. He must have a great metabolism.
Honestly, we should
100%.
bottle up his metabolism and sell it, because he eats, he should really be 700 pounds right now.
What a blessing. Everybody, though, if anything today, I would have everyone evaluate that part of their life. What are these blind spot thermostat settings you have in your identity? What you believe you're worthy of, what you believe you deserve. This is an oversaid thing in the personal development world, but it's absolutely so true. You are never going to get more out of a relationship or out of your life than you believe you're worthy of, than you believe you deserve. And if you don't begin to change that, and you can't love yourself if you're not being yourself. So there's got to, at some point, if you're going to really change how much you love you and change the world, you've got to drop these fake identities you've got that you think please other people, or that maybe your parents installed in you when you were young, or that's, the happiest people I know live authentically and drop the fear of what other people think about them and begin to live their true self. That's when we truly love ourselves. And once we really give ourselves permission to love ourselves, that's when our identity begins to change, and the external part of our life is almost automatically going to change when we do that.
So having self-esteem issues growing up, how did you, because I know for me growing up, my parents embedded in me, worry about what other people say. Like, what are the people of the church going to say? What are the people over here going to say? And so that was just, the recipe for, Maria, you need to be perfect at all times. How did you abandon that and get to truly be yourself?
Great question. A circumstance took place, and I had a baseball career that looked like was very promising. I was playing college baseball. A significant injury happened. It probably ended a career that would have ended anyway, but it's a better story that I got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And
because you never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. But it wasn't supposed to be. It was destiny. And so long story made really short, I was unemployed, graduated from college, and my dad, everything in life happens for you, not to you. We always talk about that. My dad, who was an alcoholic when I was growing up, had just gotten sober. My dad's now been sober for 30 plus years. He was at his first AA meeting. He comes home from the meeting and says, I got you a job. And I'm like, well, what is it? I'm being really picky. He goes, you don't get to choose. I have no idea what it is, but you're not sleeping in this bed you grew up in anymore. Get your ass down there tomorrow, 6 a.m., McKinley Home for Boys. I show up there. It's an orphanage for boys. And this, I'll get emotional, so I'll just talk through it quickly. But I walk into cottage 8, and there's 12 boys there that are all 6, 7, and 8 years old. And they all stopped right when I walked in. Now, all my boys, their parents were either incarcerated, dead, or had molested them. And they turned and they looked at me with these eyes. I mean, they're getting ready for school. And I recognize those eyes because I have them. Anybody who grows up with any level of real dysfunction, we've got these please love me eyes. They're just a little different. All these boys wanted was someone to love them, help them live better, believe in them, care for them. And I became like I'm getting chills. I became like their father, their big brother. There's hundreds of boys on this campus, but I had cottage 8. And it changed my life because I got out of myself and I got into other people. I started to serve other people. I found my home as a man wasn't hitting a baseball or achieving or being famous or recognized. I fell in love, literally, and I'd never had that experience before, with helping and believing in other people. That was my home. And so my self-esteem changed when I stopped focusing on me, ironically, Doesn't mean I didn't love myself, but when I found my gift was helping other people, was serving other people, was loving other people. It changed my life. And then I felt compelled to become a better man and grow my self-confidence so I could serve these people better. I think just growing yourself, just changing yourself for the sake of doing it, I'd ask you, if you've always struggled with this, what's the greater calling and purpose that you'd have if you were the better version of you? What's the difference you'd make for other people if we could improve you? That will give you the leverage. That'll give you the resourcefulness to push through and find the teachers, myself, a Joe, a Tony, yourself, whoever it is that could change you. So the catalyst for me, ironically, wasn't me. The catalyst for me was I wanted to change someone else's life and help them. And I had to get better and be a better man to do it. In marriage, oftentimes, or as a father for me, I'm constantly wanting to be better at that and not feeling good about how good I am because I love these children of mine so much. I'm never quite measuring up, right? But I want to grow because I love them. So I think you'll all find, if you find people or causes you love, that's the pathway to wanting to better you. And you can only serve them. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's going to, your conclusion is going to be, you must change you. You must grow you. You must love you more in order to give more. And that was the change for me.
Wow.
Love it. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like we always want to give the thing we don't have.
Yes.
And
yes.
so,
why do you think that is? I've not heard that before. Why do you think that is?
Because it's the thing that you crave. So you hope and wish. It's like when I was poor, I remember I would like be walking to a store and be like, I just wish someone would just pop out and just surprise me with $20. Like, wouldn't that be amazing if someone just popped out and gave me $20? Like, so when I, was successful, I would surprise people at dinner and buy their dinners, but never say anything and just watch their reactions, because that's the reaction I wanted to have when I was younger and we were struggling. And I feel like you want to give what you wish you would receive. If you didn't have support in your career, right? You would go and give that to support to others because that's the thing you wish someone would give you. And that's the cycle I've seen with a lot of people in life is you give what you wish someone had given to you or someone will give to you.
Maria, I tell Maria and Ed, so for me, I was the father to my children that I didn't get. I completely agree with what Maria's saying. There were things that were missing with my own relationship with my father that when I had kids, I went the other direction and made choices that I wished my father had made with me.
Yeah.
And so in turn, but also by doing that, to go with what Ed is talking about, I saw myself in their eyes and it helped heal me and baby Jamie and kid Jamie. It healed me inside. So it was a dual purpose thing. I was the father to them that I didn't get. And then I was able to forgive my father and forgive my childhood at the same time. I can almost get emotional too about this. I tell you, it was a dual purpose thing. But I saw myself and my kids going, wow, they're having the reactions that I wanted to have myself, and I didn't get.
I can tell you, I've been doing this like 30 years. This has never come up this way before.
Oh.
This is really, really good for me. I just learned something today because I'm projecting myself back, walking in that home, and what you're saying is completely true, both of you. That I was trying to give them what I didn't have. That's so good. Hey.
I love it. I love it.
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Everything begins with conversation, folks. That's the whole thing. Conversation, beauty comes out of conversation. Growth comes out of conversation. I love this.
Yeah.
Really good.
I think, I just know, also, like, I remember being on set at E! News. I was hosting E! News, and this whole conversation about one of Will Smith's kids. He was like just different and, had different perspectives and looked different and did all this stuff. And I was like, guys, we should be celebrating this kid because we all just are conforming. We're all doing all the same stuff, saying the same stuff and wearing the same stuff. This kid's an individual. We should be like lifting him up and showing the rest of us that being an individual is awesome. And that, I think, again, comes from that same thing of like, no, this is your box. This is how you have to be perfect. And this is what perfect looks like. And I'm just like, I want to get out of here. I want to.
I was just in a conversation with somebody, Maria, and it was a hard question to answer. They're like, what is life about? I'm like, wow, that's one of the harder ones to answer. I don't know that I'm qualified. But for me, a really well-lived life is that you're living the true expression of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so the happiest people I know are the truest expression of themselves. And the unhappiest people I know suppress that expression of themselves. And I know, even for me, there's been different times in my life where, I wish that I did that. My wife says I have the oddest collection of friends. Some of them are very well known. I think most people would think most of them are well known just because of my show or, where you live. But no, they're not. My best friend owns a transmission shop. But what they all have in common, ironically, my best friends, is they're all really unique individuals.
Mm-hmm.
They're weird. I love weird people. I love what the world would think is weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like every conversation, there's an energy, there's something interesting. They're not the norm. I can get the norm everywhere, right? I want the people closest to me to be special and unique and express their souls in the way they want to. And it's a very diverse group of people, but that is the thing. I finally concluded at 49 years old. That's the thing I love about the people closest to me, who I want to keep the closest. Exactly what you're both describing. So good.
Yeah.
I need a copy of this so that I could put it on my show. This is too good.
I love it. I'm glad. Oh my gosh. I'm honored. I think, you would love my husband because no one has a more eclectic group than him throughout his life. He's a writer, so he's got some guy at 7-Eleven he's like super close with. He calls himself G Money. And G Money is just the most hilarious character in Kevin's life. He's obsessed. But Kevin has so many eclectic friends and so many unique friends. And I think it's important. And, when you think about, your peers, you do want the people who are going to elevate you and expect more from you, but you also want your feet on the ground. And you want to be connected to all different kinds of people at all different levels. So you have an empathy that doesn't run out at some point, right?
Yeah.
What happens is as you rise and your circle becomes all like high achieving, gajillionaires, you lose complete sight of the real struggles on the ground. And then you're not as well rounded and you can't get it because now you're around people who are like, well, you gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps and, work hard. And we're like, well, you're in that puddle of shit. It's so hard to,
So on my social media right now, talk about empathy and people keeping you grounded. So obviously I post a lot of things that are about, they're serious topics, how to change this, how to change your reticular activating system, all these really detailed things. And my friends are like, probably you have too. They're like, hey, dude, don't take it too seriously. Like, I really know you, right? And the most popular guy on my Instagram right now, I call him Richard Cabeza. He's one of my really good friends. That's Dick, and Cabeza in Spanish is head. But we named Richard Cabeza.
Freaking hilarious. I didn't make that connection until you said it.
And what Richard does, his real name's Kelly Gwynn, but what he does is every Saturday he sends me an Instagram post mocking what I teach for the most part, right? Like, he's like, you really changed my life, Ed. And he's smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer. I've decided to clean my act up. He hasn't shaved. He's all disheveled. But it gives me a level of grounding and empathy. And, I'm not to be political because I'd be a really unique politician because I'm socially extremely liberal and financially, though, I'm a pretty conservative dude, right? Like I've never, everyone's, why don't you run for office? Because nobody would vote for me because I don't belong to a particular political party. But one of the things I'm most disappointed in right now is the lack of empathy by leaders. It's like,
hello.
Can you fake empathy? Like,
no.
Just like, could you try to fake it once?
No, the lobotomy. There was like an empathy lobotomy that took place.
And it just breaks my heart because it's such kindness and empathy and listening. People think, oh, those are really nouveau, left ideas. They're not. You know what's made me a good entrepreneur? You want to be a good capitalist? Empathy, listening, getting the ideas of other people, kindness. The most successful people in everything I know. Phil Jackson is the greatest NBA coach maybe of all time. What's he kind of really known for? Being a little bit more empathetic, being a listener, being kind, right? Like, I just happen to believe that that's the pathway to success as well. Like, it serves a hardcore capitalist entrepreneur who wants to be rich and change the world. And it serves a leader who's trying to heal a nation. It's what you do in a relationship. It's what you do in a friendship. And so I think empathy is this super undervalued, undercommunicated, tremendous quality of successful, happy people.
Yeah.
And I'm brokenhearted to see that not from leadership in the country. It just crushes me. So
Totally agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. I wonder what your take is on success, right? When you're an overachiever like you are, and uber successful, like, is it ever enough?
boy, I teach this better than I live it, to be really transparent. I'm in this really vulnerable, transparent stage. No, it's never enough. But for me, that never enough has moved to, I think, a healthy place. So initially, people say, well, material things will never make you happy. Well, that's just like a complete lie. I mean, no one who's ever bought a nice suit or got a new car or whatever, of course it made you happy. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course it does. What it is short term, though. And there's a gigantic difference between happiness and fulfillment. And people conflate these far too often in life. Now, material things and wealth will not fulfill you. We all know so many very wealthy people who are completely unfulfilled. And so my addiction to more moved from a house, another jet, or whatever, because it was just short-term happiness that, quite frankly, was empty. That doesn't mean I don't think you should want to go achieve it. Hey, if they're going to make a Ferrari and they're going to make a Camry and you'd rather drive a Ferrari, more power to you. I don't judge you for that. And I think it's wonderful if you want to go get those things. And I don't like the demonization of pursuit of success either. Okay. I think a lot of good things can come from that. But for me, the pathway to fulfillment is other people. One of my main sayings is that people matter, things don't. And I love people. I'm interested in people. I love, people say, I love Uber. I love getting in an Uber and I got 40 minutes with another human being, typically from a walk of life I'm not currently leading. And I love these. I think I drive half my Uber drivers crazy because it's like being on my show. Like, so what about this? Where'd you grow up? What do you think about that? What about Trump? What about the protest? I love people. And that started when I walked in McKinley Home for Boys. And so that'll never be enough for me. Like, why are we doing this today? I've got several, other things I'm doing today because this isn't work. This is my home. Like, this will end soon, and I'll feel like it was like a flicker. So for me, the achievement and contributing to other people will never be enough, and I love that. And in my life, I sort of spent the first half of my life accumulating things, and I've decided I want to spend the second half of my life helping people. Not that I didn't help them to get where I was, but I want my full-time obsession, where I feel the most alive, is when I'm doing this. And during coronavirus, and even during the current times with George Floyd's murder, I think people feel helpless. And one of the things, this may seem hokey, but the pathway out of helpless is to be helpful. Just pick something up and do something for another person. Yep. You can't simultaneously be helpful and feel helpless. And you really can't be helping other people and not feel a sense of fulfillment.
Yep.
And so it's a very simple path to having more bliss in your life. And that bliss comes in the service of other people. And it's not corny and it's not hokey. It is the path for you. And God gave you unique blessings and gifts, specially wired into you, that are just yours. It's your intellect, your beauty, your humor, your work ethic, your empathy, your intensity, your passion. You've got some of these gifts. Everyone's got 2 or 3 very special gifts, your discernment. And a fulfilled life is identifying what your 2 or 3 specials are, and then using those in the service of other people. That, to me, is a fulfilling life. Know your 2 or 3 special gifts and use whatever those are in a way to serve other people. It's also the way to become a successful entrepreneur. Figure out your 2 or 3 special gifts, figure out how to solve people's problems with those gifts, and you'll probably make a lot of money. It's the same pathway. They're not different paths.
Yeah.
I always say that out of, go ahead. Okay,
no, you go ahead.
Tragedy and crisis, beauty can be born. I mean, there's things that come out of, as an entrepreneur myself of 11 years, it's ups and downs, but sometimes during that downtime, that I got some great ideas, because you're kind of stripped.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the base, you're just at bare level, and you're trying to climb, and Maria's trying to climb out of the puddle. And I had some great ideas that now are successful, but would I have thought of them when I was in a low, if I hadn't gone through a low moment? Maybe not, maybe so. But it's like, when you go through moments like this, there's some great stuff that is born, great talent, great content, great, leaders, great everything. And so I just think that this is the time for change.
That's going to be the most amazing thing, is because you're so right. Who's the leader that's going to emerge now?
Yeah.
I don't think it's probably the two dudes running for president are necessarily going to be transformative leaders. No offense to either one of them. I don't mean to offend anybody, but there's someone out there that's going to emerge as a leader, maybe multiple, actually probably multiple people.
Yep.
And I think that's a really exciting thing. And just go through history. Amazon, and you go look at the biggest companies in the world, the Apples, the Amazons, were all born in down economic cycles, right? Netflix, down economic cycles. Amazon, down cycle. Apple, down cycle. Like some of the biggest behemoths on earth that are companies were born in really bad economies. And we're not in a good economy again. Like, no matter what the stock market's telling you, things aren't good right now. It probably won't be good for a little while. And there's going to be tons of new entrepreneurs born during this time out of necessity. They can't get a job, so they're going to start a business.
Yeah.
And they're going to become successful because they're going to be innovative and resourceful and respond to modern times needs of other people. And that's where great businesses will be born.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your definition of success. And when you talk about the coronavirus, it's interesting because 3 years ago, I think it was Monday was our birthday, right, Stephen? Yeah, 3 years ago on Monday, I had brain surgery, and it was not happening to me. It happened for me, and it changed my entire life and my perspective on things. And I went on this complete new journey, and redefining success was something that was really important to me, and something that I feel like we all need as a collective to unburden us, in a sense, of the pursuit of things, and rather the pursuit of what our soul is screaming for. And I feel like the coronavirus was the collective brain tumor for everyone, because I kept saying, I'm like, how do I get people to have the aha moments I've had without giving them a brain tumor or some life-altering experience? And I feel like the coronavirus was definitely that for a lot of people, because it forced us to go inward. We were stuck alone or stuck at home. We didn't have the usual distractions that we had. We all realized that the most important thing in life is our health, and the health and well-being of the people we love, and the connection that we have with people, right? As that connection was severed, right? We now realize just how badly we need humans. And, for me, I'm like, I can't wait to hug people. Oh my God. I'm like, I am so hug deprived. I'm the biggest hugger in the world. When you come to my birthday parties, I'm a few Bud Lights in, but I will storm your body. If you can handle my body, I am jumping on you and hugging you as tight as I can. But I feel like it's important for people who are trying out there to hear that success isn't measured by the things, because that's usually what we first go for. Like, I had benchmarks, right? I had things where I was like, oh, if I get this, then I've definitely made it. Or if I get but then it's like you said, you get them and it's like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm getting back into my Porsche. I don't think about it anymore. I don't think, I do think about it when the top's down. I'm like, yes, I love the air and I love driving fast. Don't tell the police. But it quickly goes. And then you're like, okay, well, what's next?
Well, Maria, Maria's a good hugger. And when I say that, I always think a good hugger.
Thank you.
I say that. I love hugs. But I just want to say that I had a life alter. I had a severe case of Bell's palsy, and I was down for almost a year. And Maria was very helpful to me, actually, when I talked to her during that time period. And so I feel the same way. I feel like when the virus time ago, I had a virus too, and I got it through my ear, and my face went paralyzed. And so it's kind of like I had to learn how to stop. And Maria knows how this is too, and really go inward and take stock on everything that's going on. And I think right now the world had to stop, because we're all going through this together. It's just so amazing. Again, like I said earlier, we couldn't go the way we were going.
Yes.
Like we were doing it, but at some point, something was going to intervene. And so I kind of agree with Maria and what she's saying about that. Like, just something had to happen, no matter what it was. It was bound to happen.
I think it's a consciousness reset. That's what I was hoping we would get from Corona. And it's amazing that you say that. I had a heart attack when I was 32, and that was my moment. And one of the things that changed for me, it wasn't that I didn't have lists of things I want to do. I still do to this day. It was, this is a really serious topic to me too, so forgive me for lecturing on it, but I really believe people have a problem with giving themselves permission to be fulfilled and happy now. And so there's this notion in the world that I'm going to delay. When I get this promotion, then I'll give myself permission to be happy. When I get the Porsche, then I'll be happy. When I get this relationship, then I'll be happy. And what happens is we keep moving the finish line and we never get there. And the problem is, no matter what happens, when you get that big mansion, you have to bring you with you there. And if you can't give yourself permission to love you now and be happy now, my heart attack for me said now matters. And so, yes, health now matters. And I'm hoping that everyone here hears this, that you can, and then there's these other people, I call it blissful dissatisfaction. People conflate bliss and satisfaction. They think, well, if I celebrate it, Maria, you know you had this because I had it. If I really start enjoying everything, I'm going to lose all my drive. I'm going to lose all my ambition. So I'm going to kind of cheat my happiness now because my recipe is I don't really enjoy everything. That keeps me driven. And it's not true at all. You can be completely celebratory and happy and still be dissatisfied, still want to go to another level, still want to help more people, still want to acquire. My wife has this very bizarre habit she's developed as she's gotten older, which is really embarrassing. But when she eats like really pleasurable food, particularly if she's cooked it, she like starts moaning like orgasmically, like
I do too.
You know, this just, I'm like, babe,
I'm a food moaner for sure.
Yeah, and it's, you know, you're beautiful, she's beautiful. It's a little weird in the house, but it's like super embarrassing in public. Like like my birthday a couple years ago, we're at this Italian restaurant. We walk in, some dudes are checking her out. That's okay. You can look a couple times. And we sit down. We end up sitting right next to them with my kids. And she starts into this. I'm like, these dudes are going to explode. Like, we're in a public place right now, right? But she said something, because I'm always thinking about, you know, other stuff. She goes, but the more I enjoy it, the more I want another bite. And I'm like, oh man, what a metaphor for how I don't always live. Like, I think if I enjoy this too much, I'm not going to want another bite. In fact, the way the brain works is you give yourself more dopamine hits, the more you want to get to another level. So cheating yourself of bliss and happiness now actually robs you from whatever it is you think you want to go get in the future. And it was a pretty good lesson for me, even though it's incredibly embarrassing and uncomfortable.
That's friggin' hilarious.
And yeah, you'll see it when we have dinner. You'll see it.
I am very big personality, so I do the same thing. I'm like moaning and freaking out. Like a friend of mine gave me a homemade apple pie the other day, and I'm on Instagram, and my eyeballs are poking out of my eyes, and I'm moaning and screaming, and this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me ever. And so, yeah, I'm the same way. That will be a very eventful dinner for sure.
A lot of noise. It's good to know I won't get any food between the three of you because she eats, you eat, and evidently your husband really eats. So.
Oh yeah. Well, Ed, I want to be respectful of your time. I have about pages, 3 pages of things here, but I think we got to the most important stuff for today. I hope we can do this again sometime, and I hope I can get to know you and your wife better as well, off the air.
I love that. Can I say one thing before we go?
Yeah.
First off, I've enjoyed this. We all do a lot of these. This is wonderful. I got more out of today than certainly anybody listening. I can guarantee you that. But one thing I want to tell everybody to just give themselves some credit, and that is right now in the world, there's a lot of monitoring of what people say and don't say, and you got to say it this way. Let's give each other credit for our intentions. And let's give ourselves credit for our intentions. People ask me all the time, what's one of the fastest ways to give yourself some more self-confidence? You know what? I'm a good man, and I'm trying to do good in the world. And my self-esteem and my self-confidence does not come from my incredible abilities, because I don't think I have them. But I give myself a lot of credit for intending to do well. And so, that's what's beautiful about what you're doing here, Maria, right? And I just want to give you both credit. Frankly, you're intending to do well in the world. And one of the fastest ways to change your self-esteem and self-confidence is just to focus on how good your intentions are, because you know that about yourself. You know it's true. You know you're a good man. You know you're a good woman. Give yourself some credit for that. And it's the fastest way to start to feel better about yourself. It's just your intention to do well, your intention to help, your intention to do good. And you know what you're going to find out? Most people intend to do well. Not everybody, but most people do. And that's a path for more confidence. That's a path for more change. That's a path for more empathy about everything we've talked about. So I just wanted to add that at the end before you kick me out. So.
I love that. I love that. What a great way to end. And it's so true. And I think it does. It fosters more understanding and, like you said, empathy. And I think we need so much more of that. Of course, if you guys want more information on Ed, he has the #1 podcast, The Ed Mylett Show. You guys can find that wherever podcasts are found. He has his book, Max Out Your Life, which is available on Amazon. I believe it's like 100 pages, right? It's very short, but like succinct.
You read it in about 40 minutes because I'm not a great writer and I don't have that much to say. So
no bullshit. I love that. We're going to put the links in our description of the show. And I'm really, really grateful for your time, Ed. This was awesome.
Loved it. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, I hope cross paths with you someday too. You're amazing.
You need to be at that dinner.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
And I will say, I'm a producer quickly hopping in. Ed, you will be talking to Maria at some point because I'm talking to Erica about bringing her on your show. So for fans who obviously love Maria and love Ed, part 2 is going to happen on the Ed Mylett Show at some point. At some point.
Got to do it in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Let's speed that up.
Perfect. We'll do.
Okay.
Sounds
All right.
good.
God bless you guys.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
That was so cool.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
He's amazing. He's amazing. Amazing. He's speaking it. He is speaking it. I love it.
I love it. Tomorrow on the show, Jeff, why don't you educate us on our incredible guest tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is, I always say, one of the best gifts I get as a producer of this show is through your platform, Maria. I get to have these like amazing pre-interviews with brilliant people. You know, I can send emails and be like, I'm producing Maria's show, and then all of a sudden, a lot of people say yes to Maria. And the guest we have tomorrow is incredible. Her name is Candace Watts-Smith. She's a professor from UPenn and just a really, really well-spoken, eloquent, and empathetic voice in the Black Lives Matter movement. I found her through a TED Talk, actually, about I've really been trying to educate myself, and this was about systematic injustice in our country around race. And she is passionate about arming both people of color and maybe people who come from a place of white privilege about what's going on and what we can be doing to help. So it's going to be a really incredible episode, and just really excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, it goes like this. Jeff, I want an expert to help us get better. Okay? I need a great voice in the Black Lives Matter movement that can help us. And he's like, aye, Captain. And then he goes.
I love it. It's my favorite part of my job. So it's going to be great tomorrow. And
I'm like, I want James Lott Jr. tomorrow to co-host.
Yep.
And he's like, aye, Captain.
we always want James Lott Jr. Even I told James yesterday, you know, I've produced James' show Breaking Into for a long time, which is an amazing show. You can find a whole catalog of episodes on Black Hollywood Live. But James is one of those people, I love your voice, literally and in terms of you as a host. And just so great to have you on today.
It was completely beyond just it's so much my pleasure to be here. And I want people to know that when I was coming out of my Bell's palsy stuff, I contacted Kevin and Maria, and they actually got back to me with some advice on a few things. I went to Maria and asked her about her situation coming back to life again after a long stint off, and she gave me great advice. And I know if I need to text you or call you about something, you do answer. Whenever I see you, you always talk to me, not just like, hey girl, bye, and you go about your business. You actually stop and you talk, how are you doing? And that goes to Ed's intentions thing. I think it really doesn't mean that you seriously have always been supportive of my career and have always been supportive of me. So
thank you.
When you call,
and the big guy Kev, who's not here. He's
he'll cares my Hollywood Papa. So
Mr.
Kevin
Patreon.
Mr. Patreon, we call him. He'll be in for the Patreon. He won't grace us with his presence on the Daily Show anymore. He's Mr. Patreon, but he loves you, and
it's mutual. So
thank you for those kind words. We love you. If you guys want to know more about James Lott Jr., James, tell them where they can find you.
Everywhere, kids, everywhere at James Lott Jr. That was actually Kevin's advice to me 5 years ago. Make everything uniform. And so I'm at James Lott Jr. literally everywhere, from SoundCloud to Spotify to iHeartRadio to YouTube. Well, YouTube's actually JLJ Media, but everything else is James Lott Jr. TikTok, James Lott Jr. Follow me on TikTok.
I'm going to follow you today. I can't wait. Thank you so
organizing
much.
tips.
And thank you guys for listening. If you haven't joined us at Patreon, please do click the link in the summary. We have really great conversations over there that I think you will enjoy and will be helpful with great takeaway for your life, which is what we do here every day as well, but that's just an extra one for you. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. You can follow us at Maria Menounos, at Stephen Lemieux Photo, at Jeff Crane Graham, at Ed Mylett everywhere, of course, at James Lott Jr. everywhere. And remember, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.